Well. Just when you think you've seen it all, you go to Fleetwood on a Saturday and things are glorious at half-time, and then, well, you're forced not just to watch your team concede 3 goals, but whilst you're doing it, have the Captain Pugwash theme tune thrown down your ears. So apologies for anybody who was triggered by that intro, but you have a laugh or you cry, and we've done plenty of laughing on this show, but we've done no crying yet, Dave, but I think we're about 3 losses away from that or something.
Getting there, Johnny, getting there. Yeah, I felt nauseous when the third went in on Saturday, but I've kind of regained my equilibrium now, so ready to go.
Back in the zone. And to join us tonight as well is match reporter from Saturday, Ronan McCarthy. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, Johnny. Hope you are well too. It was a really fun night on Sunday morning when I had to watch the highlights back to see what had happened because I couldn't quite remember bits of it. So I really enjoyed doing the match report and getting that back in my mind after I just stopped being angry from the 24 hours before.
This is our penance. I think we did something wrong in a past life. That's for sure. But let's crack on and digest it all.
That was the week that was. It's over. Let it go.
Go on then, Ronan. I'll come to you first. Seeing as though you had the pleasure of match reporting that on Saturday for Given Beans. I mean, is it a new low this season? 2-0 up at half time and losing 3-2 with what was minutes to go. Actually, I didn't even realise it was there was so little left to play in the game when we were still winning the match. It felt like forever. But yeah, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I feel, when I was going back and having a look at it and looking at like timestamps and whatnot for moments, I also didn't quite realise how late on they got that equaliser, which made it all so much worse, really. We just, I don't know, we looked so comfortable in the first half. It's probably one of our best first half performances. We nullified them to very little. But the second half was just catastrophic, really, wasn't it? It was self-destructive. It was every probably negative word we've used against the soccer in this short time doing the pod. But I don't know. We just got done down that, our right-hand side, their left-hand side on countless occasions. I mean, every goal came from that side, and it was just like deja vu over and over again. I was stood next to Herbie watching the game for a change-up. Very often get to do that as much anymore. And even he noted, he said, you didn't celebrate either of the 2 goals. And I went, because I'm just so feared of what could come. I'd Christ, I didn't see that coming. I'm not Mystic Meg, but bloody hell. The third goal sort of epitomises our season, really. I think Will could go to make that stop, or what you want to call it, 100 times and never managed to do that again. So, yeah, it was a bleak drive back in the barrel, even for, there's been some bad ones this season, but that was probably the worst of the lot.
Yeah, one of the wettest as well. I mean, It was a pretty nice day driving up there, Dave, and we're selling fanzines outside the ground, and my little boy helping us out, getting the mags out of the bag and handing people some change, and then, 2-0 up at half time. It seemed like we were going to have a bit of a day, but...
Yeah, it was funny, chatting to people, and everyone was like, we've had our good half, because we don't seem to be able to put 2 good halves together in the same game. So whether it was Gallows humour or whether it's just the fact of, having watched them throughout this season, that we didn't really have the confidence in ourselves to hold on to the result, and we kind of almost guessed that it was going to happen. The manner that it happened was dispiriting. I genuinely did feel sick when that third one went in, and you've referenced the Captain Pugwash thing. Christ, there was a guy stood near me who I think he must have been a neutral, because when the second, because he thought it was funny, he thought it was brilliant, and then, when the second goal went in, I used some rather industrial language to let him know that I didn't share his appreciation for the Pugwash theme. So that was where I was at, but. Yeah, I mean, we did all right first half, didn't we? We were pressing. That kind of rose golden newbie triumvirate up the top of the pitch was doing well, and the great challenge from newbie won his 50-50 and got us going for the first goal, got us in the area, scored a penalty, first penalty of the season. We scored off a set piece. Their left winger was getting some joy, but between them, Barkhuizen and Thompson were kind of nullifying him, and it looked to me as though we kind of addressed the gaping gap between the right hand side of the central defenders and the right wing back by basically playing a flat back five and just cutting out the space, which I'm happy to do. I know people say, "Oh, your wing back should be further up the pitch," but when you're conceding 2-3 goals every game, then or pretty much every game, you've got to do what you can to kind of nullify your own weaknesses, haven't you? But yeah, second half, the changes that they made, I think Evans made a difference for them. But was it Song who came on and got a goal and an assist? We just couldn't seem to handle him, and I was really worried by Maria's comment when he was saying that we could coach them when they were close to us, but as soon as they were on the other side of the pitch, we kind of lost control. And you're thinking, crikey, these are professional footballers. Shouldn't be like a PE teacher kind of, right, stop everybody, look where you're all standing. You know, why is Tom Barkhuizen got two men that he's marking and all that sort of thing? You think you can. How can you forget what you were doing in the first half over the course of 15 minutes at half time? What are we putting in the Lucas head at half time that means the minds go blank and they forget how to defend? Oh Christ, think outside the box. Send Dave Worrell to go and get the Bovrils and tell him to go and stand on the other side of the pitch or something and do something proactive if you feel as though the game's slipping away. Yeah, baffled me, that comment, to be honest, but yeah, just the manner of the win, as Ronan says, you know, that was an utter freak goal, and it's the sort of goal that happens to teams that are down on the luck. And when you're down on your luck in the bottom of League Two, it's not a pretty picture when you look at the league table at 5 o'clock, is it?
Yeah, I picked up on that because I thought it was a great interview. I've said that a few times. That's one thing about Dino Maria is a fascinating character and a great speaker. And I put on Twitter at the weekend says probably, you know, the only thing giving me a bit of hope at the moment, the way he's really breaking down this side and their weaknesses, both from, you know, on the pitch and, you know, with approach and mindset and stuff. So that was good to listen to. And the point you made there, Dave, really played out in the game, because I thought Barkhuizen had Ennis in his pocket for that first half as they were attacking the end that we were in. That just seemed to completely change the second half, and did he end up being their player of the match or something in the end?
Yeah, I mean, they obviously had the game plan, which we kind of alluded to on the last pod, is if you want to get joy against Barrow, then you attack that space between the centre halves and the right wing back. And they kept going and they kept going and they kept going, and it was probably one of those. You know, you hear, I think, is it Craig Rutherford on the radio when he says, you know, you've got to have people making consistent runs, one at the front post, one at the far post, one arriving late, and you've got to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And if it doesn't work all game, it might work in the 89th minute, or, you know, in their case, was it after you know, after an hour or so when they scored the first goal, and this, you know, the kind of the strategy bore some fruit for them, but. Yeah, I don't know. We looked as though we'd kind of cracked it in the first half, and then it fell apart in the second, which is worrying, because, yeah, in his interview he talks about, you know, we've got to enjoy the suffering and things, and it's kind of alluding to a mentality shift. Can you change a mentality of a squad in 7 days, or you know, a series of 7 days? Because he's obviously going to have you know, fixtures coming week by week, obviously, and it needs to turn around at some point. But his track record suggests that he can do it, because he's done it before. So hopefully he's got enough at his disposal to be able to make those changes.
Yeah, let's go to the Soccerline, because Stevens messaged in with his thoughts after the game.
07
Hello there, Given Beans. Stephen here, or known as Barrow Fan 92. Just getting over the defeat at Fleetwood. First half, I thought we were really good. They looked really lost and out of it. I thought we might be able to get another 2 or 3 past them in the second half. But of course, in true Barrow fashion, we just couldn't keep up with them. They came at us. And as soon as they scored their first goal, I thought, here we go again. We're going to bottle it. And sure enough, we did, with Will Stanway giving them a nice free gift at the end, just salt in the wounds. I think it's full-on panic stations now. The fact that, as I speak at this time, Bromley and Cambridge have not managed to get anything past Newport or Harrogate, so it's quite clear they're improving. So I feel quite worried about how the rest of the season is going to go. In my mind, I think we'll hold on. I think we'll probably finish 22nd, but also would not be surprised if we do go down. I think Dino has a lot on his plate, and I think he's now starting to see the issues that the team has. So hopefully with this full week he's now got before Gillingham, he can pull something out the bag and maybe hopefully get a free agent in, like a right back or someone who can just help this team get forward, because at the moment it's not looking very good. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, so Ronan, we touched on the manager there. That's his third game in charge. 3 points from 3 games. That is that 1 point per game that we feel like we would need to keep us up. I mean, how much does that defeat reflect on him?
It's hard to say, really, because obviously the players have been like extremely poor this season, if we're being really honest about it, as a collective, maybe not some as individuals. So it's difficult to sort of surmise and give an opinion on that, because in such a short period of time. I think what was reassuring before Saturday was we'd gone from conceding 2 goals a game down to just a 1 in the 2 games, which when you're in a relegation battle, you need to just be tighter. Obviously Saturday massively blew it out of the window, and we looked like Moses parting the Red Sea every time they went down that left-hand side. But you could see better performances in the last 3 games, minus this last half an hour of Saturday. I think you could genuinely see a side that was creating more chances. And although it wasn't, night and day better, there was an improvement on what we had watched. But it's a bit like improving on just being horrendous is just being all right, really. So you can't really go much from there. But I think so when you listen to Maria speak, and obviously he's extremely charismatic, I think what's always reassuring, and it's a bit of a cliche, is you feel like you've watched the same game of football. There's no sort of like airs or graces in between it. There's no sort of like bullshit behind it, really. What you see is what you get. Now, is that transferring through to the players quickly enough? Probably not, you'd argue, because I don't think 3 points out of 3 games is good enough at the moment. I think we need to pick up more results, and quickly, may I add. And we really need to try and do something to get ourselves out of this mess. I think I said in the match report that 4 points is probably par for the course. 6 points is, a fantastic 3 games. But we really need certain items to click. Dave alluded to it before. Playing in between our full-back and centre-half is the easiest thing in the world at the minute, because they look like they've never met each other, never mind, played football, some of which have played, 500 professional games. It's really concerning, that element of it. But we are to get Freddie Anderson back in. We are to get Sam Foley back in. So you're hoping, that will hopefully shore that up a little bit. But, Saturday probably can't come soon enough, really, to try and get rectified the mistakes that were made on the following Saturday.
Yeah, and in addition to the new manager, Dave, obviously we had quite a few new signings in January. We've seen a bit of them now. I mean, have any of them added to this squad? Danny Rose got a standing ovation as he came off on Saturday, and I think people seeing something in him, enough to kind of, get off the feet and clap him off the pitch. But with the exception of him, kind of clutching at straws really to look for any improvements. And if anything, some of them, as you can see from sort of Malcolm's little cameo towards the end of the game, maybe being a bit more of a hindrance and a help.
Yeah. Rose has given us a bit more presence up front. He's got that nice bit of shithousery about him, which means we're winning a few more free kicks, kind of relieving the pressure on the back. I mean, the signings we made in January, we needed them because of the numbers. But as you say, whether they've improved us or not, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I mean, Freddie Anderson was probably the brightest apart from Rose. He looked decent in a couple of games, but then he succumbs to the injury curse of the Barrow AFC training ground this season. I don't know what we're doing in training. It seems to be full contact Aussie rules on a pitch laden with broken glass. The amount of bloody injuries we're picking up on the training ground, whether that's because we're training on 3G, whether it's because we're unlucky or whether it's because we've got the most kind of high intensity training in the entire country. I've no idea, but yeah, it's like a scene from MASH on that training ground most weeks. But yeah, I mean, I've just kind of wrote them down. You know, Freddie Anderson, bright but injured. The other Anderson, all right. Thompson, suspect. Rose I've got a tick. Malcolm done now. You know, there was a back heel before. Was it the second goal that he got? He did a nice little back heel. The third goal? Sorry, can't be doing that. Sorry, can't be doing that. And then the keeper, who we've not seen, and I don't think I've missed anyone. But yeah, you look at that in terms of a kind of collection of business, and you just think, that's about it. I don't know how you spell. That's how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about our hope probably lies in the players who are injured coming back. Like you said, Ronan, we got Foley and Anderson more imminently. We expect over the last couple of weeks. I mean, what's the word on Whitfield? What actually was his injury? It seems to sort of just do that thing that players keep doing at the moment, just sort of disappearing when you think that nothing's going on. And like you said, Dave, it's come to the injury ground curse.
Yeah, we seem to be getting that a lot this season, don't we? Where players just seem to be going missing. There's not really much said, and then they just reappear in like 3 weeks, like some really shite Houdini act, and it's getting really frustrating because, you know, I without going too deeply into it, I appreciate the weather has been catastrophic this season, and you know we're not a football club who's got the luxury of having, you know, the unbelievable training facilities and multiple pitches, but the fact we're still training on bloody Lego in end of February and not got them up at Alker Street on a Friday afternoon is baffling considering the state of our pitch at the minute, which is, you know, really good. When you're going through the signings there, and not just the signings that we've made in January, but the signings as a whole, how many can you actually say are a success, really? Like, you know, Danny Rose is he's done all right. It's an arguable success. We've made something daft like, is it 20 signings, 23 signings, something like that? And you'd be hard done by to basically say more than 2, maybe 3 of them have been any good, really. You know, Whitfield's done all right since he's come back. McCann's been all right as well. But it just seemed to me in January, and I appreciate, you know, Paul Ormby basically said, you know, money was no object in theory. We've ended up signing a load of kids. You know, with the greatest respect for somebody who's only 26 himself, we've not signed any, you know, real experience, nothing to sort of cheer us up, make us any stronger. I think, you know, you without going, I think you've been ever slightly kind there. I think both the Anderson and Thompson have been poor, like really poor, to be honest. And Powell just seems to, I don't know what's happened to him. He's just disappeared off the face of the earth, and we're now left with having to play Rakeem Harper and bloody McCann in midfield every week, and McCann's doing fantastic, but I'm not a Harper fan to say the least. So I really don't know what's happened to our recruitment. Is it the fact that we're now at a stage in the EFL where we've been here so long and we're near the bottom that people don't want to come to us? You know, that could happen. Is it to do with the location? You know, they're not really in Barrow for more than once every 2 weeks. So I've been really, really underwhelmed, and I think it brings a larger question, not only to, I know recruitment's been extremely done to death by our fan base, but if we are to change the model going forwards, and, you know, a lot's come of Ian Wood, who's genuinely obviously had a really, you know, a shocker, to be honest. Is it just Ian Wood? Is it something that we have to reflect as a collective? You know, you've got Jawabi in there. How involved are the board? You know, I don't think these questions are being asked to a level of detail, to be honest. That's a little bit of a mini rant from me, but it's really starting to get under my skin how poor the recruitment's not been just this season, but last season at all. It was shocking.
I think they've kind of recognised that in the fact that when Homer did his interview, he kind of said we're going to do bring a director of football in, perhaps to take some of the pressure off, and there'll be a full review at the end of the season. You've just got to hope that by the time this full review swings into action, we've got an EFL club to be reviewing, and not kind of at panic stations of, right, how can we downsize even further to take into account losing the Sky and the EFL money, and we've got £1 million less coming in at least every season, plus whatever the gates go down by and all that sort of thing. So hopefully this review and getting an extra body on the recruitment side, because let's face it, director of football at Barrow, what are you directing? We haven't got a youth system to oversee. We haven't got a women's side to oversee. We've got the first 11. That's it. We haven't got the B team anymore. You are literally overseeing recruitment and lining up the next manager
every 8 months.
which is a full-time job in itself at Barrow, isn't it, lining up the next manager? To be fair, you'd be on time and a half for doing that this season.
Yeah, maybe I'm not giving enough credit for the overtime that goes into, and not just replacing managers but replacing staff, as it seems this week. But yeah, I don't know. I just every time I ask the question to myself about it, and I have gone through very nerdily and gone through all our signings over the last sort of 24 months. I think you could probably say about 6 of them have been all right, like out of stretch, to be honest.
I mean, just before I move on to the Gillingham view and the game this weekend, just a quick sort of temperature check on both of you. Stephen, calling to Soccerline there, mentioned panic stations, mentioned feeling like we're probably still going to survive just by the skin of our teeth. I mean, where are you at, Dave, quickly, in terms of how you think this season's going to end? Are we going to do it, or are you kind of gone the other direction now?
I'm never the most optimistic. I'm one that I'm always happy with the draw, mate. I think the manner of the defeat on Saturday, as I was kind of trudging out the ground, I just thought we're done, because that's the sort of thing that happens to teams that get relegated. And Harrogate, in the event of a nuclear holocaust, there's 2 things that are going to survive: cockroaches and Harrogate Town. And they're going to do it again, aren't they? They are going to do it again. So it's sort of up to us to make sure that we get past Newport, Crawley, whoever else. But yeah, just as I said, the manner of the defeat just kind of really, it was a kick in the guts on Saturday. I really felt as though that was the sort of thing that, if you end the season and you do end up below that dreaded dotted line, it's the sort of afternoon that you look back on and say, that was a big moment in the the failure to retain the status. Obviously, keep going, week in, week out, and back them as much as we can. But yeah, I suppose the last couple of weeks, especially the last week, losing at home to Harrogate, and the manner of the defeat against Fleetwood was kind of really, really lowered my optimism, I must admit.
Yeah, what about you, Ronan?
I think the only thing to add to, things that survive nuclear holocaust is Chase Homer as well, really. I mean, how many managers has he seen off? Like, you know what I mean? He's never president of our bench. He's never going to get rid of him. I like Chase. He's a nice lad. That's not a negative against him.
He's doing 70-hour weeks, him.
I know, Christ. He's the only person doing more hours than our director of football appointed, the football managers.
Should be pots and pans on a Thursday night for Chase Homer.
Yeah.
Go on, Ronan, quickly then. We'll check this every week now as we go on. But are you
asking me? You're asking the most negative man in the world to follow up with a bit of positivity here. I've been thinking we're done for weeks. Like, to be honest, I don't have an ounce of positivity in it at all. I think I've accepted slowly what's happened. Although when I say that to my missus, she definitely disagrees with me. She says that I'm still slightly optimistic. But yeah, like I said, like I keep going back to match part. Like I said, the match part. I don't think it's up to us now to try and get them over the line. I think there's only 20 lads who can do that. They've got to take some accountability between themselves. One of them's got to come out as, more than one of them's got to come out as a leader and say, personal pride. If you're not asked about doing it for Barrow, do it for yourselves. At the end of the day, don't have a relegation on your CV. If that's what it takes, if you're not asked about us, think about yourselves.
Hello, you've reached the offices of Given Beans. All our beans operatives are busy getting it forward at the moment. Please leave your message after the beep.
Good evening, Bluebirds. It's Tom here, host of the Gillingham FC ME7 podcast, coming to you before our meeting in Cumbria this Saturday. The Gills will be hoping for a first win at Barrow since 1967, but 3 points are proving hard to come by at this moment in time. Just 3 wins in our last 17 games in League Two. We're now in 16th place with no goals in our last 3 games and morale at an all-time low. Gills fans turned on a large section of the players after being beaten comprehensively by Oldham on Saturday, and a trip to Holgate Street would not be an easy test for any of us. Many of our fans are looking forward to the season being over, as Gareth Ainsworth is likely to have a massive rebuilding job with almost 20 players out of contract in the summer, many of whom are senior pros such as Glenn Morris, Bradley Dack and captain Armani Little. In January, Ainsworth brought in Omar Beckles, an experienced head at centre-half, but we haven't yet found him a consistent centre-half partner, while we have still been struggling to score goals at the other end. Bradley Dack remains a key man in midfield, with new signing Cameron Antwi not yet started any of our last 4 games. Gilles' poor run of form could be attributable to yet another run of those same players being ineffective for another permanent manager. In the build-up to getting ready to face Barrow in December, Andy Wing was removed from his role and 2 Josh Gordon goals capped a spirited second-half comeback to earn a well-deserved point. Yet another example of Gilles' players not being able to commit to playing well enough for 90 minutes, and a welcome boost for the Bluebirds as well. The Paul Gallagher experiment didn't work, but I expect the Dino Marmio to have you fighting until the bitter end for survival. Unfortunately for Barrow, Harrogate Town are not lying down as easily as most expected. Although I think that Newport are still going to go anyway, it will be a nail-biting finish to the season for your supporters. The Gills will probably make a number of changes again for Saturday to a side that are dangerously out of form and just need some consistency. Gills need a win for their own sanity, while Barrow would love a win to put some daylight between them and the bottom 2. I am going to go for a 1-1 draw, and on the balance of play, that won't be a bad result for us. But if Barrow do pick up 3 points, it would unfortunately be not a shock result. All the best for Saturday.
Yeah, Dave, I'm getting flashbacks to listening to the guy from Newport and then the guy from Cambridge, was it? And then the guy from Shrewsbury, who all, dialed into Spilling the Beans, giving us a bit of a preview before the game, telling us how poor they were. And yeah, then obviously they played us and they found out how to play football again and went on a big run and did really, really well. That aside though, I mean, this is another chance after Fleetwood, because Gillingham are one of the worst sides in the form table at the moment in League Two. We're at home, obviously, where we got that win against Colchester. We should be looking to get something from this game or to feel good in some way about it.
It's certainly as good as an opportunity as we could probably hope for. I think sometimes playing those teams in the middle, it's almost psychologically, it's an easier game than playing one of your fellow strugglers because of the added pressure of it's like double jeopardy. Not only are you losing, but you one of your close rivals is winning. And yes, as you kind of said there, that they're not in the best of form, but we've seen plenty of teams rock up at Holgate Street this season, not in good form and disappear off down the 5-9 with 3 points in the bag, don't they? It's not. I mean. It's a cliche that, Barrow's a hard place to go, but it really isn't a hard place to go this season. We're very welcoming hosts, aren't we? You'd just like to think that kind of the improvement that we had defensively in the first half on against Fleetwood can kind of continue, and hopefully a week on the training grounds giving him a bit more time to work on shape, to work on mentality, to work on morale, whatever it might be. Hopefully maybe get another one off the treatment table. But it's the usual problem, isn't it? You think, well, do we have it in us to score the goals and to create the chances and to keep the clean sheet? And it's kind of 3 big questions that we've kind of, for large parts of the season, we've not been able to answer sufficiently well.
Yeah, and of course Harrogate play on Friday night at Cheltenham, so we can start the game, as everyone's well aware, in the relegation zone come 3 o'clock on Saturday run. Do you think that will make a bit of a difference? I mean, I feel like myself, we've been in denial for quite some time. Seeing us in that bottom 2, do you think that will be the rocket up their arse that some of these players need in which to show a bit of fight?
Obviously, I hope it doesn't happen, and I hope Harrogate get a poor result on Friday, but if that's what needs to happen to get them to realise the situation they're in, then so be it. I mean, you'd have to be pretty naive as a football player to not realise the situation they're in.
Don't doubt.
Well, yeah, I know. But watching them pretty much weekly like we all do, I think some of them don't really realise what's going on around them. It's like Dave said before. How many times have we heard this coming where a side's coming on poor form, they can't buy a win, and they come and roll us over. It was an interesting start to see that Gillingham haven't won here since 1950 something, whatever.
67, yes.
67.
Glasgow Celtic were European champions last time. Gillingham won at Holker Street.
I wish we could be the bloody Barrow Lions and the Lisbon ones. But I don't know. I'm running out of optimism. I'm running out of hope. But every single bit that I have is getting sucked out of me on a weekly basis at the minute. It was lovely to get that Colchester result, obviously, and get the monkey off our back. So it's like Dave said, when you're playing them teams that are on the beach, does it make it any easier? I hope so, because it can't get much worse for us at the minute.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about that, I mean, it was a similar situation against Fleetwood, and it probably kind of made them think, well, we've got nothing really to lose here. We can just come out in the second half and just give it a go. We're not desperate for anything. We don't have to, throw the kitchen sink at it. We could just have a bit of a pop and see if this team fall apart, and that's exactly what they did, and that's exactly what happened. So I think with Gillingham, like you say, it's a good opportunity for them to go, look, if we attack this team in the right areas, then we can see them fold. But as I said before, Dave, I do think it's an ideal opportunity after that Fleetwood game. If you were looking at a fixture, within League Two at the moment, this is probably about the best one out there. Based on what you see, we spoke about January signings. We've spoke about some recruitments. I mean, who do you not want to see in that starting 11 come 2:00 on Saturday? Who've you had enough of?
Plenty of them. I think the follow-up question and the kind of the coward's caveat is, who have we got to replace them? I seem to be stood very close to people who, in the last couple of games, who've demanded Harper be taken off after 5 minutes. But you're just like, well, who are you going to put on instead of him? Because we haven't got any other centre midfielders. If we had Scott Smith on the bench, or if we had Sam Foley back, or if MJ Williams was fit, then yeah, by all means, let's bring the changes. But it's one of them. You look at the team sheet, and on a Saturday, and your first reaction is, right, who's injured now? Who's gone down on Friday afternoon with a mysterious injury and he's out for 5 weeks, like half the rest of them. So it's having the options to make the changes. Yeah, I said it the other week, there's plenty of them. I'll quite happily wave off at the end of the season because I'm sick of the sight of them, but we've got to play 11 players, haven't we? We've got to play a full team and a full bench. So that there are quite a few probably in the starting 11 and on the subs bench where you think, well, you're doing it through gritted teeth, but we literally have nobody else.
Yeah, but of all the things that aren't working at the moment, what's the one thing that kind of stands out to say that's something we've got to stop and got to change?
It's that right hand side of central defence, but kind of if Raglan's not fit, and I mean Joe Anderson's left-footed, so do you unbalance him by putting on the other side? Maybe if Foley comes back, and by the way, there's a lot of pressure on Sam Foley when he comes back, because we seem to we're placing a lot of emphasis on when Foley comes back. So far, we've got him earmarked to sort the central midfield out. He could play right wing back, and he could go right hand side of the back three. So we need 3 Sam Foleys. That's kind of that alludes to Ronan's point that we've basically signed a load of kids in January, and we've got two young lads who've at the heart of the defence. You're probably wondering what the hell they've signed themselves up for. It's about having the options. It's the we need to sort that defence out and make sure that we're solid, because if nothing else, if you keep a clean sheet, you're going to get a point, and a point a game between now and the end of the season. But is that enough to keep us up? Maybe not. I don't know, but I'd feel a lot more confident keeping more clean sheets than not, rather than conceding 2s and 3s every week like we were doing under Gallagher and whatnot. So that's the key area. We need to stop conceding so many goals.
Yeah, the one thing worrying about Sam Foley though, is that he seems to have developed Colin Mahoney's haircut. So hopefully that's a feed into his form. There's a bit of a Gillingham connection there, obviously. And just before I come back to you, Ronan and Dave, there's been talk of changes in the dugout as well. They haven't, at this point, where are we now? Wednesday evening, haven't materialised yet. But Mamory has not brought anybody into his coaching staff. We are expecting that to change.
Yeah, and I think it needs to. I think at one point, what did we have? Wing with Rob Kelly and Craig Peed, plus Worrell and Daniels, and now we're down to. Now we're just down to Marmria with Worrell and Daniels. So he needs help, he needs support. I thought someone like, say, John Dreyer, who has been on the coaching staff with him at previous clubs, I've kind of half expected him to tip up at some point in the last week or so. But yeah, as you say, at the time of recording, there's nothing else. And obviously, if we're looking to bring in a free agent, then he's going to be looking at doing all the Y Scout stuff and the analysis and doing the presentation, because apparently you have to do presentations nowadays and a big PowerPoint to say where the player fits in and what the vision is and what the philosophy is and all that nonsense. So he's a busy boy, Dino, isn't he? But yeah, hopefully reinforcements will be on the scene very soon.
Yeah, just looking at the wider relegation battle, Ronan, because for most of the season we've been looking at Newport and been looking at Harrogate as and potentially Shrewsbury as the three bankers who'd be teams worse than us that would make sure we retain our Football League status. That's changed obviously as late as Harrogate have got into really good form. Newport still struggling. Do you feel, looking around that anybody else can kind of get pulled into it, or who's gonna kind of really struggle alongside us? Basically, who are we hoping to be worse than us come
at least two teams. Yeah, I think Crawley are struggling at the moment. They've made more new signings than we did last summer in January, and it's gone horrendously wrong for them. If you look on social media and look at Tranmere, they seem to think that they are doomed, even though they've got 9 points more than Harrogate, who currently lie second bottom. I think Bristol Rovers will eventually pull away from it. They've had, in the last 5, they've had 3 losses, but they're sort of bookended by two wins. So I think it will. The bottom 4 will be there or thereabouts, with Tranmere joining them in some capacity. But I think they've probably got enough points on the board where they only need to win a couple of games to get themselves out of it. This is, without going to the football cliches, we really are at the stage now where it doesn't matter what everybody else does. Just we've got to start doing it ourselves and not relying on other teams to pull us out of it, because regardless of what everybody else is doing, at some point they're going to pick up results, and we're just not picking up results on a consistent enough basis to get out of it. So we really need to sort of hold the mirror up to ourselves here and go, it doesn't really matter who else is there, we've got to do the job, because we're not doing it again.
I mean, looking at the form table as well, last 6 games, well, it's just unbelievable to see Shrewsbury up there number 1. They won 5 out of the last 5, so it shows you you can turn it around. Things can happen. So maybe we're due a run of form. You never know. We haven't won this season, so we might just time that run of form right. But are you still seeing 40 points as the watermark, or do you think that's changed a little bit with Harrogate's recent run?
I don't know. Whatever I say will be wrong. So I could say 40 points, it won't be right. We'll need 41 or something like that. I think 5. If you get 5 wins, which is a big if, because we've only got 7 all season in the league, you should be all right. I hope, he says. We'll get 5 now and get relegated. Hopefully we'll see is enough. Although these teams like Harrogate, Newport, Harrogate especially finding a bit of form now and beating the last 4. So not all these teams are world beaters. They've been poor for a reason. We've still got games in hand. I know we've got to win them or get results in them. So it's not all doom and gloom like myself and Dave a little bit has been about today. So there is still a small silver lining to it all. That we've got games in hand and we've got that opportunity to do that. I'm going back a couple of questions, so I apologise. But when you asked me about it being bottom 2 would be a rocket up our arse, and I had a bit more time to think about it. I think mentally it could break them because they're a pretty fragile bunch, if we're being honest, and they're pretty weak mentally, judging on what we'd seen Saturday, where they literally just fell apart with a little tickle down the left hand side. So I'm really hoping Harrogate don't get a result on Friday night, not just for the reason of keeping us up, just because of the short term mental fragility. Because if we do get a result and we do manage to pull away, it would really be a massive relief and a massive sort of pressure off our backs, really, because we've got the ability to go within more than one result away. And I think whenever as a fan I'm looking at it going, we've got 4 points or 3 points and goal difference, I don't know why it makes me feel a little bit more assured and a little bit like I've had a warm cuddle around me, because you've got a little bit to go back into. You've got a little bit more there. So if we can just get to that little sort of break where we've got more than a result away, I'd just feel a little bit more light and a little bit happier. And I've got to go back. I put it in the bloody match report again that I could do a well-being thing in work. I've got to say my well-being tomorrow in work, and I don't really know what to say. Like I've got to go and pretend that I'm happy, and don't want the ground to swallow me up. I've got to Hulk Street on Saturday. So yeah, let's just try and get a result away. Is what I'm saying in a lot of words there, because it would make me feel a lot better. It'd be nice to come home and be happy on Saturday, like I was last week when I seen Dave at the end and we had a lovely cuddle, and it would be lovely just to get the same feeling again. It wasn't a cuddle, it was bloody almost rugby tackle. That's what I want again. If I can get that again on Saturday, I'd be well happy.
Yeah, I mean, just looking around the fixtures at the weekend, Crawley, they're away to Oldham, who are in pretty good form. Oldham, they had a good win, as our Gillingham counterpart mentioned just then against them. Harrogate, we mentioned, play Friday night. I'm sure we'll be all watching that. And then our friends Fleetwood, they host Newport County, so it'd be typical, to take 3 points off us and then roll over for Newport County at the weekend. So yeah, it's a big weekend, and they're all big weekends now. Just looking at some of us as well, Bristol Rovers are away to Swindon, who have been a little bit flaky of late. They seem to be doing well 1 minute and doing terrible the next. And yeah, Shrewsbury are going to get playoffs now. Actually, they've gone full circle. So yeah, Dave, any last thoughts?
I think when you're in a relegation battle, and again, it's the old cliche, you literally have to take each game as it comes, because as Ron said, all the teams at the bottom are structurally, inherently weak teams. And it's just a matter of having a 90-minute effort where it might all come together for once, where your defence might do its job, where your attack might do its job, where your goalkeeper's not the victim of some outrageous misfortune.
Voodoo.
Yeah, and getting those 3 points is massive. But if we beat Gillingham on Saturday, it all resets for Friday night at Cheltenham. And again, if we lose against Gillingham, it resets against Cheltenham. I've not seen any signs of kind of our potential to put together a run of form. Winning 3 out of 5 or that sort of thing. I just don't see it at the minute. So it is literally, let's just try and scalp individual wins where we can, or draws or whatever, without worrying about, we need X amount from X games. Let's just got to take each game as it comes, and hope for the best, really.
Yeah, but like you said, if there's an opportunity for a run of form, why not have it against Gillingham at home, Cheltenham away, Bristol Rovers at home, Accrington Stanley at home? This is a real opportunity to kind of show that we're ready to stay in this league. So let's see what the next 4 games brings, because otherwise it starts to get a little bit trickier after that. And to be fair, we go to Salford after that, and I watched them last night, and they're really starting to fall apart. They're right down the bottom of the form table. So
don't jinx it, Jonny. Come on.
I was going to say, you know how the soccer works. We'll go on and do horrendous in these 4 games, and then we'll go on and play the hard games, and we'll go and turn into the prime League 2, absolute unbelievable whatever ball.
You've done a sterling job of talking me and Ronan down off the ledge. Thank you very much.
You have.
I just think you've got to look at, like I say, you've got to look at Shrewsbury. I'm not particularly optimistic. My head is exactly where everybody else is. But I am encouraged by Dino Maamria. I really am. And I think if we're going to be in this situation, at least we've got him in charge, who's got experience of digging teams out of there. You made a point there about ability and, matchups and stuff, Dave. I thought I caught a little bit of Dior Angus when I was driving home from Fleetwood on Radio Cumbria, and he was saying, at this level, bar one or two players, who are clearly levels above and will move on to bigger and better things in League One Championship, it's a pretty level playing field. What separates them is kind of form, mindset, approach, so if we can turn them over, we can soon see that this team does have the ability to win football matches, and that's what Dino Maamria is saying and seeing. He says from what he saw at Colchester and what he's seeing during the week, we need to start seeing this over this next 4 games where we've still got an opportunity to give us that cushion that Ronan was talking about. So, yeah, anyway, any other business? Just 2 things on our list. Cheltenham, there is actually a bus now, isn't there? I think it's been subsidised, and it's going to be £30 per adult, which is a great price for a little trip down to Cheltenham Spa on a Friday night. So, yeah, get in touch with the Bluebirds Trust if you want to jump on that bus. And then finally from us, we mentioned the fanzine. We're outside the ground at Fleetwood before Harrogate and before Colchester, selling the latest edition of Given Beans. That's now online as well, as a lot of you already know, as I've seen plenty of orders come through today. So do snap them up while they're available. There's always limited numbers. They do get close to selling out. So yeah, get one while you can. Dave, Ronan, we go again. Let's see what Saturday brings.
Cheers,
Johnny.